Okay, hello ladies and gents. We are going to be doing this question today. Compare the ways in which both the very best and worst elements of human character emerge from the experiences presented in Black Diggers and Longest Memory. The reason we chose this is because we want to try and do an essay that is not focused on racism, to kind of show that this text is about more than just racism. So, ladies and gents, first things first, I'm the realist. What are the key words in this question? Yeah. Human character. Good. Okay, what else do you think is important? Emerge from the experiences. Yeah, good. Experiences. Yeah, that word emerge, as in like, the word emerge means like to come from. You know, that they come from experiences, not that they were always like that, but that they have become that. Abdul?
Elements.
Elements. The elements of human characters. Yep. Oop, I don't want to do underline. I'll go bold and italic. The very best and worst, because it means that you can't just focus on one. You can't just talk about like the best characters. You have to talk about both. Very best and worst. All right. So the very best and worst, like, human characteristics emerge from experiences presented. Okay, so basically that question is asking us, like, from either war or slavery, the best and worst elements of human character arises. Do I just have to talk about characters of colour, though? No. And I think a higher end result will realise that. A higher end result will not just talk about people of colour in the story. They'll also decide to talk about Mr. Whitechapel and how his experiences of being a slave owner bring out the best and worst. And, you know, Sanders and Sanders Jr., you know, how their experiences of managing slaves brings out the best and worst. Mainly the worst. I guess Sanders Jr. you could talk about the best. Like, it does kind of bring out the best in him. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of it. But he realises that he does actually love Whitechapel in the end. Okay. So it really wasn't about you. It was about Jack. So don't say thank you at all, because he was actually just being selfish. All right. Okay, so let's have a look. Obviously, we don't want to structure as like characters. A low-end result will structure through characters. So they'll just kind of match up characters. So they'll kind of go and just kind of pick two characters and do two characters in each piece. We don't want to do that because that's boring. It's predictable. Try and avoid writing in character-based paragraphs as much as possible. Not just in this section, but in section A as well. Try and write in ideas. You could structure the very best and then the very worst and then do a third paragraph on something else. Again, I feel like that's maybe a little bit predictable. Is that just me? I kind of go, yeah, okay. Yes, that's a straightforward way of doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you could still come out with a very good essay doing that. So, whereas I feel like if you structured through characters, it would be quite limited. I feel like if you structured best and worst, you could still actually do very well. What's another way that we could kind of structure? What do you think? I haven't got the answer. I'm ticking it over myself, so don't feel bad. Yep.
What happens
Oh, okay, so structure it through the actual events and go like times of, say, dispossession cause this, cause the best and the worst. Times of disempowerment create this and this. That's really good. I like that a lot. Do you guys? I'm into it. I like it. So instead of structuring through the very best or the very worst elements of human characters, what Bosco is saying is structure through the experiences that actually create the best and worst, and then look at best and worst in each paragraph. I love that. Good job. All right. So what are going to be our experiences? Because we'll have to align through experience. Sorry, I need to reward you. Lollipop or shapes? Ooh. Oh, there's not many left. Whoop. I'm a terrible shot, Abdul. I'm sorry. But I don't lack enthusiasm. All right. Guys. So we're going... we're going to have to structure with the experiences aligning. So they're going to have to be like the same experience. So we won't be able to kind of go slavery because it won't work because there's not slavery in both texts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, yep. Trauma. Yeah, okay. So trauma brings out the best and worst. Oop. It's like, you know, that SpongeBob writing, you know, when the SpongeBob meets, that's what it was. Trauma. Okay. Well, it can bring out compassion for others. You know, like, if you experience trauma, then you can then empathize with people who have trauma.
You're actually
So, he's here for the lollies. Lollipop or shapes? Lollipop. Do you want fruity or creamy? Fruity? That was an excellent throw. I'm not even sorry. Right. Yes, my love. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. That's what this one will need because he doesn't do sucrose. So.
I don't eat sucrose. It's enough of the killers.
Yeah. Did you just hear that? I'm not going to repeat it on camera. But she may have called you something that starts with W. Okay, the experience of power, and that way... we could either talk about people who experience being in power or people experiencing power being kind of inflicted upon them. We could kind of go either way. Yep. Yeah, so emerge from experiences presented. So when you say memory, experiencing memories, or is that those trauma? Is that going to align too much with trauma? Yeah, I just want to make sure that I don't double up, because if I double up, I can screw myself over. Yeah. So love. The experience of love. Yeah. All right. I like that. Because, like, love doesn't necessarily have to be, like, intimate love. It could be mother-son. It could be mateship. It could be, like, there are lots of different types of love that we experience through our lives. Oh, this is creamy. Do you want creamy or fruity? Or do you want shapes? You want creamy? Oh. I think that's the first creamy someone's asked for. There's chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry and cream. Huh? Alright. Finton.
I know it's already up there, but
Yep.
transgenerational trauma I think would be good to write on. Evident in both.
That's true. Alright, so I'll just put it there as a reminder. Transgen... Transgen. It could be, but it could turn into a really exciting essay. Like, it's just like a weird twist. That Lydia wasn't a woman after all. Actually, she was the brother. Just like weird ending. Yeah. Alternate endings. I love it. I once had a kid write an alternate ending on their history assignment to World War II, where Hitler went to Japan. Yeah. He didn't do well. Surprise. Because the question was, what happened to Hitler after World War II? So he went to Japan. Alternate endings. Alright. So, ladies and gents, we've got the experience that we're aligning. We're going trauma brings out the best and worst. The experience of power brings out the best and worst. The experience of love. Anything else? We will get to it. These are just like the paragraphs. We're structuring through experiences rather than elements of character. Yeah. Right. Ladies at the back, remember, you don't have to be here. This is not a compulsory activity. Either tune in or go elsewhere. We ready? So we're structuring through the experiences. Thank you, Jordan. We're structuring through the experiences rather than the elements of human character. Are there any other kind of ideas that you have? There are plenty. Powerlessness. Experience of powerlessness. Abdul?
Sort of like betrayal, in a way.
Yeah.
Betrayal by society.
Yeah. Okay. Betrayal. Yeah, because it could be like Whitechapel betrays Chapel as well. Yeah. Betrayal. Anything else? Is there something there, Shantanu? Well, you could do racism. Like experience of racism brings out the best and worst. Yeah? I'm just trying to write an essay that's not race, just to show you that you can. You don't have to write about race. Well, this is the thing though, the questions that they give you, most of them on the exam, most of the time they're not about race, because they don't want you to just rely on, yes, black people were treated bad. They don't want to get a whole lot of essays that are like, yes, black people were treated bad. They want you to go, well, this text is about more than just racism. It's about all of these other things. Oh, yeah, but like they want you to realise that there's more to it than just race.
Could I say social hierarchy or?
Would that come into racism though? Cool? Happy? All right. Let's take the top 3 as our paragraphs. Which would you put as the first one? Which one do you think is the strongest argument? Power? Okay. Power brings out the best and worst. All right. You should always lead with your strongest point. Always lead with your strongest point. The main reason for that is, particularly in the exam, you may not get to your last point. Which happens with lots of people, and that's totally okay. It's not ideal, but I would say at least half of my students don't get to their 3rd paragraph. Yeah. You can fight him later. I know. So, like, about half of the kids will only write 2 paragraphs per essay. And that's okay. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that, oh my God, you've failed. It probably does mean that you're not going to get a 9 or a 10. But it probably doesn't mean you failed. It might also mean you failed, but that won't be the main reason you fail.
Could you still reasonably get a 7 or a 6 or something?
Yeah, you could probably still get, a 7, maybe. If it's really good. If you wrote 2 killer paragraphs, you could probably still even get an 8, to be honest. A 9 and a 10 are like, have you read 9s and 10s? They are ridic. They're ridic. Like, they're incredible. Yeah. They would get the time to write 3. I'll just wait. Shh. But because of that reason, I would structure my paragraphs to go from best to worst. Because that way, if you don't get time to write your 3rd paragraph, it's not the end of the world. You still got to make your best points. Yep. No, because, like, examiners know, they know that you're under a time constraint. They know that you're writing an essay basically in 50 minutes. So they're okay with it. That they go, okay, so that's where you would have gone had you have had the opportunity. But if you get to the point where you're like, I am not going to get time for this 3rd paragraph, make sure you put a conclusion. Okay? If you get, like, towards the end, I would say in the last 10 minutes, if you're like, this is not going to happen, then finish the paragraph that you're at, write a conclusion, go back and proofread. Do not sacrifice your proofreading to write that extra paragraph, because one, no one's writing a good paragraph in under 10 minutes. And the second thing is that they won't penalise you that badly for not having 3 paragraphs, but they will penalise you badly if you haven't got a full stop, like, in it. So make sure you do proofread and get all of those little bits where they need to be, where, like, your full stops need to be, you know, apostrophe S's, all that kind of good stuff. They will penalise you pretty heavily for that stuff. Yep. I probably wouldn't, just because you haven't had time to talk about it. But if it's in your intro, they're not going to penalise you for it, because they're like, okay, I see where you would have gone had you have had the opportunity. Yeah. Make sense? Sorry, I just thought I would add that in, because I know that's something that a lot of people do stress about. All right, so experience of power is going to be my number 1. Number 2, do I go trauma or do I go experience of love?
What the hell's your problem?
That was really
I
loud.
know. He's got midget syndrome.
Midget syndrome. I think you mean small man syndrome. I don't think you mean midget, because midget is actually like an offensive term. And you know, Jack, you're not a giant, so you know. Oh dear God. All right. So let's structure this paragraph. You're being such a sook. Right. All right. Experience of power. So what evidence are we going to use? Where do we see the experience of power? Let's start with the longest memory. And we need to show the best and the worst. The best and the worst. Or alternatively, we could go, depending on time, because obviously time is of the essence, particularly if we're talking about preparing for the exam, what you could do is look at the experience of power and in one text show how it brings out the best, and then in one text show that it brings out the worst. You could do that. However, in the SAC, you're going to have 90 minutes, so you've probably got time to actually do a decent job at showing us the best and worst in one scenario where we see power, and then in the text, and then both in the other. We're probably going to have enough time to do that. and do a nice job. Whereas I think in the exam, you'd probably cut corners and go, I'll do one from each. Best from one, worst from another. Yes.
Use evidence, would you like to ask to organise it chronologically?
Not necessarily, no. Do you mean from paragraph to paragraph, or do you mean within the paragraph?
If you
Oh.
one bit of evidence,
For one text?
yeah.
Preferably, but if it doesn't work to your advantage, don't do it. Yeah. Okay. The longest memory, an experience of power, bringing out the best or the worst. Think of an incident where we see power, like a power struggle, like someone's super powerful and someone's super powerless. Yep. And the whipping? Yeah. And obviously it brings out his power in that scene. It does bring out the worst in him, isn't it? Like where he says like that he actually hits Whitechapel and says, I'm never going to, I'm not going to take this from a slave kind of thing. Yeah. So Sanders Jr. in the whipping scene refuses to, he actually says take orders from a N-I-G-G-A-R. Chill out, Jack. Chill out. Chill out. Alright. Lollipop or I've got some gummies. They're very hard to throw. So Sanders Jr. Shh. Now, can I just give some advice as well about giving evidence? It's best to pair quotes with a bit of scene discussion. Like tell me a little bit about the scene that you're kind of placing it in, that the quote is coming from. Don't just kind of like try and generally talk about the text. So I've just and I always seem to notice it's this essay that people do it in, that they stop talking about scenes in the text. They just start kind of going, Sanders Jr. Experiences like, a heady, he experiences, an overwhelming sense of power when he decides that he's not going to take any orders from a nigger, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't actually say, this is, in the scene, da-da-da, Sanders Jr. is overwhelmed with his sense of power, blah, 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 blah. Like, talk about the scenes. Talk about the things in the actual text. Did that make sense, or do I sound like a raving lunatic? Talk about the actual scenes. Okay, so refuses to take orders from a nigger. I stop saying that. How else? What else can we say about his power? Anything else? Yeah.
I was gonna say like after that brings up the word. There's like I don't know if it's a journal entry or not, where it kind of brings up that stuff when after Whitechapel dies, he says like I wish I could cover you with my jacket or something like that. That kind of brings up.
Yeah. So it also, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah. He says if you were white, if you were white, I would have wanted you as my father. So there, I'm going to talk about refuse to take orders from a nigger. His overwhelming sense of power encourages him to exploit it. Over Chapel and Whitechapel in his anger. Yeah, in his anger. Like, he takes it out on them. His anger he takes out on them. He says something like that I am tired. My foot is cut. And he uses like their like Chapel's punishment seems to come as a result of this. Like that it seems like he kind of thinks that I'm going to give this boy 200 lashes because of all I have suffered, that I have had to go running around looking for him, and so I'm going to kill him. Does that make sense? His overwhelming sense of power encourages him to explode it over Chapel and Whitechapel in his anger. I am tired, my foot is cut. Chapel's punishment seems to come as a result of this. And that way, you know, this is the worst of human character. Yeah? Could I also say, is there something in that we could say the best of human character comes out?
Probably Whitechapel when he starts to marry Cook, despite her being raped.
I do like that, but I mean in this actual scene, in this moment when Chapel is murdered. Yep.
Chapel is kind of resilient, answering to his name even when he's
He does show like even though he's dying and stuff, he still is incredibly like resilient. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, isn't there a moment where, correct me if I'm wrong, where Whitechapel actually asks to be put in his stead? Is there a moment where he says that? Like, instead of him.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a moment where he actually says, take me instead? Before he actually straps him up. He does. So could we say that? Like, that's self-sacrifice. Like, he knows his son's going to die, and he says, I would rather die than my son die. Yeah. Yeah, then he gets punched in the face. Sanders Jr. punches him. He's very aggressive today. Jack's got midget syndrome. You wouldn't understand. It's difficult. It's difficult for him. No, I don't think he is. But you're both short.
You're just uncalled for, Bosco. I told you to sit down. You responded in black.
This is such a strange scenario. For the whipping, he definitely holds on to his dignity until death. You know, like, so he refuses to apologize. He refuses to, like, give in or, you know, anything like that. And he does cry, but like, they are whipping him.
It's in public as well.
So like, I would also probably cry if you decided to like
That's what I mean.
whip me.
Like
No, but like,
I'm saying, it's in public as well. That's the whole point of it. It's to embarrass them.
it is, yeah.
Does it have two G's in it?
What? Oh, sorry.
I just didn't know what it was.
Begs. There. He eggs to be put in the stead. See ya. Hi.
Are you gonna send that?
So, Whitechapel begs to be put in Chapel's stead for the punishment. Shows like the best of like human character, like that self-sacrifice, that he would rather suffer it than let his son suffer. In Chapel's stead. Oh no, so like Stead means like in the place of. I'm confused. So what's the difference between instead and stead? I guess instead means, yeah, I guess there's not much different. But it's like one of those words that I don't know why we wouldn't say, yeah. No, you wouldn't. In Chapel's place, yeah.
Instead of like in place of.
Yeah.
And so in Chapel's
Stead, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, in his shoes. Nicholas.
It's not really a word for it.
Yeah, I get like
Character as a whole is the greatest example. Because he believes that by turning his son, he's doing the right thing, even though he's being oppressed this whole time. So that's his entire life is an example of their power over the slaves.
But he's kind of like brainwashing. Yeah, is
He's pretty much their greatest example of power, as he's completely subservient to them.
yeah, but is that what does it show about human nature? So remember, we're doing the best and worst,
That it showcases the worst from
their perspective.
plantation owners, because
They can look what they can do.
they're fine, and then they keep him around basically only to control the other slaves, because he has no other real use for them.
Yeah. I'm just worried about Finton. I think he might be dying. Are you okay? Collar? Nicholas? Collar? Sorry. No, it was a little too much. All right. Can we do some Black Diggers for this one? Black Diggers? Where do we see an experience of power bringing out the best and worst? Experience of power bringing out the best and the worst. We want one scene that does both. One scene that does both. Yep.
When the boys return from war, it brings out
We need... sorry.
return from
Oh, I shouldn't do that. That's probably really loud into the computer. Right. Boys. Shh. Jack, sip it. I can hear you. Right. Jess, sorry.
when the boys return from war, they expect to see gratification from the members of society, but they don't.
Mhm. So, yeah. Or even like gratitude, yeah. So, but I need a specific scene. Remember, see, that's what I want to try and avoid. So, like, you know how you're saying the boys expect gratitude, blah, blah, blah. That's that kind of general talk about the text that I want to avoid. I want specific scene. Who's... Ah, right, when they roll out the red carpet. So that's Archie and Mick?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we could use that one. But have I got the worst as well? Oh, the worst is that they don't turn up because they don't care. Alright. Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
1916 Indian Ocean.
Oh, jeez. He's even got the date, this one.
The aggressive private Harry.
The aggressive...
White soldiers stick up for Harry.
That's true, we see the worst because...
Worse because obviously he was
The
operational.
yeah, vilified. And then we have the best because we have the other boys stand up for him.
Bit of camaraderie.
Okay. Is that about power though? Experience of power?
Absolutely not. Paragraph 2, I'm thinking ahead.
Okay. We'll just wait. Shh. Alright. More ideas? Abdul.
When Archie goes to the RSL good idea.
He did not.
That was wrong.
That was good. He did. I heard him. He said it to Jack.
He said it to me. I was going to say it.
He said Jack. What about when gets rejected by...
Alright, I'm going to write that one down because I like...
Solomon.
Alright.
go away. And the other guy's like, we don't care about your skin colour.
They actually said it.
The Solomon and the other.
Yes, what flavour would you like, Miss Kay? Pardon? Lemonade.
Oh no, you can have one. If you already have one.
I do have dictionaries. Yeah. Right, Abdul, what do you want? Strawberry. Take that. No, darling. It's not a buffet.
Great source of protein.
It's not a buffet. I do have a banana in my office. I have a banana in my office. Yeah. Alright. So, Archie, trying to get into the pub.
Solomon stick up for it? No, Solomon didn't let him. Yeah, Solomon didn't. Oh yeah, no, sorry.
Oh yeah, anyone got none?
Give him one.
This is a cherry. Oh, let's use the balls out.
Can you not? What are you doing? What are you? This is how I know.
You don't have to, it's already open.
They're going to break the
We don't see the colour too, so.
I said the bloody transgeneration.
And then he says something like, you don't want to bring the wrath of the RSL on you.
And then the other guy's like, oh yeah, we don't see the skin.
Yeah.
Eat a pistachio like that again.
Alright,
It's a cultural thing.
right.
Is it?
So, can we refocus? Okay, so we've said Archie trying to get into the pub. The best of human nature is shown through the power that the RSL have when they use it to get the pub to let Archie in. We don't see the colour, we see the service. And then the important bit of the quote is particularly when he actually gives a bit of a veiled threat. The RSL secretary gives a bit of a veiled threat and says, we don't want to bring down the wrath of the RSL on you. As in, if you're not going to do what we want, the RSL want, which is to let in people of colour, then we're going to jeopardise your job. So that is kind of using power for the better. Where do we see the worst? What would you say?
Credit goes to Miss Callahan.
Always Miss Callahan. Right. And then the worst is obviously Cess, the Solomon. That is very generous of her. That packet is probably like what, $10? No, more. Pistachios are like really expensive. They're like $15. It's generous. All right. The worst of human nature is from Cess, the Solomon. That he uses his power to kind of further his own racist agenda of not letting in people of colour.
It was Jack's money.
You just give me a colour.
You just refocus.
What do you call a security? Well, I was going to say bouncer, but that's like slang.
It's just another word for something stupid. What? I'll take that.
Good luck. He's a king amongst men. No. By keeping people of color out. What's the quote he uses? We don't let them in any other time. What's the where he says? Yeah, not any other day. Yeah, it's like something like what makes today so special kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no.
I mean, he is actually doing his job. Like that would be the rule. Yeah. Okay, so we've got experiences of power, we've got the longest memory, and we've got Black Diggers. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. That one is done.
Sweet.
Should we move on to the next argument?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that is trauma brings out the best and worst. And then we had like a little thing saying we wanted to talk about transgenerational trauma. Transgen trauma. And we were like, ooh, that shorthand could highlight something that we don't want to go down. But also interesting alternate endings. All right. So trauma brings out the best and worst of human nature. How does trauma... Who do you want to start with? Longest memory or Black Diggers?
Black Diggers.
All right. Black Diggers. How does trauma bring out the best or the worst? What's a scene? No, not necessarily. Yeah, you could change it up. I don't think people would worry about it. Ooh. Could we do Nigel's letter? That scene of Nigel's letter. That trauma brings out the best and worst. It's not...
What about the bloke with a glass of wine? He always thinks about how war brings them together. It's kind of like one party's this is all comradeship that we have, but
That's really true. I like that. It brings out the best and worst. How does it bring out the worst in his human nature? Shh. Hey, focus. How does it bring out the worst in human nature though? Okay. Or what about Tommy? What about the minister's thing with Tommy, where Tommy it talks yeah. So it brings his trauma brings out the best in him. How? Do we see the best? No. It's kind of like just the worst. I mean, you could say he was a war hero. Like, war brought out the best and worst in Tommy. No, but that's the worst, that nobody cared. That he was a hero. He was a hero there.
He was an unknown hero.
Yeah. That could work. Trauma brings out the best and worst. So the best was that, like... Yeah.
I guess he survived, but like, literally very.
Yeah. Okay.
But he survived a war when he was there for like
Yeah.
3 days.
He died when he came home. Yeah. And then he dies...
No, that he dies when he comes back. He's like,
Yeah. He dies of alcoholism much later.
After he died during when he got buried.
No. He dies, he comes, like, they dig him out and they find him, but then when he comes home, he just becomes an alcoholic, and dies because he drinks himself to death, basically.
No. That's traditional.
calm down.
Did not say that.
Right. What do they call him? Do they say that he was a decorated soldier? Do they call him a decorated soldier? They call him something like that. Who's got their book? Black Diggers? Okay, can you look it up? What do they call him? It's like the minister says like they say something about his medals, that he was a soldier.
Wasn't he said he was buried in some place? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but then it says something like we found his medals.
Yeah, it was his medals were found where he was living in, like,
Under the tank. Yeah. What does he? But what do they describe him as?
Thanks.
No. But like it says like he was a decorated soldier or something like that. So just before it tells us that they found the medals, what does it say? Okay.
I'm just getting shit.
I guess like it brings out the worst in his human nature in that it drives him to alcoholism, like alcohol dependency and depression, which is it is the worst of human nature in terms of not necessarily nasty, but it's destructive. How do we know that he was an alcoholic?
You could smell him before.
Yeah,
He walked into the room or something like that.
you smelt him before you saw him. Yeah. And became he became devastatingly depressed. Probably the saddest line in the whole of Black Diggers is that he cried so that we could all hear them. He cried so loud that we could all hear him. Yeah. Oh no, I just picture that idea of like he cried so loud so that everyone could hear him, that like he's like crying so that someone will come and comfort him, and no one did. That like and like I mean you grew up in a small town. Like if there's like someone who needs like if there was someone in your main drag that was like Tommy, you would all know about them. You'd all know about them. So like the fact that nobody reached out breaks your heart. This is not like it's like Melbourne CBD. This is like a small town and there's a guy living under your tank. Like somebody's going to notice him, especially if he's crying so loud that they can all hear him. And nobody does anything. I just picture, the water tank at Nagambie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I picture that and he's just like sitting next to it. Because that's my small town. That's where I grew up. So.
No way.
Yeah, my parents still live there. Nagambie. It's like an hour and a half from here. Yeah. It's just out of Albury.
Oh, Aubrey, well.
Do you like the response? Oh. You want some meth with that?
Ah,
You come from Albury.
No, you're right.
Oh, hi. Oh, I can't talk though. Seymour. Like. Yeah, my family's from Seymour.
yeah, shit.
There's literally no town.
I'm pretty sure everyone in Shepparton is
I was born in Shepparton.
Shepparton's no way.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we had one of the best.
Jordan, that was so rude. What's wrong with you?
What'd you say, Joe?
Sorry.
Alright. Okay. Alright. Right. The longest memory. Trauma brings out the best and the worst. We could all, oh, sorry. Hear him. I gotta say something intelligent. Longest memory, I need something that trauma brings out the best and worst. I need one scene.
It's in my head, though.
Then I guess the tip of your tongue will never taste shapes. So, one scene, I want one scene that can do both the best and the worst.
Mr. Whitechapel, he's kind of...
She's got her hand up, so I'm going to go with her. All right. Sorry, I can't hear Jess.
The scene where Mr. Whitechapel catches Chapel and Lydia reading. It brings out the best because.
Oh!
Hey, hey. Shh.
Take your time. I'm really.
Yeah.
It brings out the worst because he gets punished, but it brings out the best of him because he gets an opportunity to like read and what's the word? Discover that he is entitled to like an education sort of. No.
No, I see where your head's at. I like that scene, but I think I would change the people. I think I would say it brings out the worst in Mr. Whitechapel because he obviously like tries to impress his idea of racial superiority onto Lydia. He tries to kind of, hey, shh, chill out. But you could also talk about it brings out the best in Lydia, who's like, like he deserves to read. Does that make sense? Like it brings out her sense of justice. Did I steal your point, Quinton?
No, mine's kind of dodgy, but it's worth saying, I guess.
Okay. Shh, 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 shh. Guys, this has been a lot of work. Come on. Abdul, keep your hands to yourself. Right.
In the chapter Plantation Owners, the worst is brought out of Mr. Whitechapel because he's just seeking absolution from their approval, but also the best where he's saying they're not really just slaves, they're also somewhat people as well, and they should be treated.
But do you think he really means that, though?
Well, no, it says one half
Like,
wants to
one
walk
half
away,
is
whereas
divided,
one
it's
half wants to agree with them.
He's
So I perceive that as
Yeah.
separate, a dichotomy of
his idea. Yeah. No, I-
you laughing at my intellect.
no, dichotomy is alright.
No, exactly. That's experience that trauma.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Brought out the worst.
no, it brings out the best in
What? In
Mr.
Whitechapel.
Whitechapel and Whitechapel.
In Whitechapel.
Because it makes Mr. Whitechapel apologise.
That's what I said.
He makes sense. Whitechapel makes Mr. Whitechapel.
And then they're allowed to get married. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. Remember?
No, I was the origin of that.
When Whitechapel said that thing.
Don't even try.
So Whitechapel said that thing.
Yeah, so yeah.
Right, calm down, people. God, look at it. There's a lot of tension, isn't there?
Slapped him in the head.
We were not
Sure.
hostile towards you.
Rape?
No, exactly.
Hey, what
right.
miss? Can I have a shakes?
Chill out. Oh my God. Barbecue or pizza? Jess, did you want dictionary? Meet me after class. See you, sweetheart. Alright. Yeah, we didn't mention transgenerational. That's true. Alright, well, let's edit that out. Whoop. Alright. Whoop. So, why don't we... Oh, actually, no, I want to change this. I'm going to be... Because I want to also encourage you guys to use minor characters more. Like, I feel like we often really heavily rely on Whitechapel, Chapel, that kind of thing. I want to use somebody who is very kind of left of centre, very minor. I want to use the great-granddaughter. Right? Yeah, and I'm going to use transgenerational trauma here. And I'm going to talk about, it brings out the best and worst, as in the trauma, the trauma of slavery brings out the best in the great-granddaughter, in that it encourages her to dream, that she wants something more, she wants something, else. It encourages something good in her, but it encourages something bad in Mr. Whitechapel, in that he tries to rob her of those dreams and tries to repress those dreams. Yeah, didn't I say Whitechapel? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Whitechapel tries to do that. He tries to kind of say, you can't dream of Africa. So that's the best and the worst. And I want to use that one particularly because it is a minor character. Abdul.
At the end of the day, it's just a dream. Like, something happened.
Yeah, but, isn't that the best of human character, that we can dream? That we have the ability to kind of want more? If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. It's okay.
Illusion, I reckon. Like a dream. It's like something's happening.
But it's important that we do dream. That humans dream for more. That they want more.
It's actually not. Yes, that would be much more efficient. What would be most efficient? Bring the dinner and like that. Maybe you can study 3 or 4 business operations.
Never study business. It's a waste of time.
Study business.
Thank you, much appreciated. Much obliged.
What does he say to her about, that you can't dream of Africa? What's the actual quote?
Keep your dreams here.
Yeah, make your dreams here. But, what does he say? Africa is not for you. That he chooses not to dream of it, so she can't. Yeah.
Stop!
Right. Jack, chill out. No. Chill out. No, I don't. No, I don't want to know. Right. Good. Right. So the trauma of slavery brings out the ability to dream of more from great-granddaughter. So that's the best. But the worst in Chapel, when he tries to rob her of of these dreams. Africa is not for you. Because he has learnt from the trauma of losing Chapel to dreams. That Chapel dreamed of more and he lost him. So that causes a trauma in him that makes him want to then rob anyone else he loves of their dreams.
Greco kind of acts as like a representative of progressive society that they can move past.
Yeah, that there is a chance for more. Yeah.
It's a glimmer of hope.
All right. All right. Do you need a second to copy stuff down? Okay. It's a bit full on.
You know my feelings. You've got the upper hand right now. How do you feel like this? How do you feel twice? How do you feel 4 times?
Stop. Stop there. And... All right. All right, we've got 2 minutes. We've got 2 minutes. We moved really slow today. I know, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. I'm working with inferior materials. Stop now. Stop now. Stop now. Alright. What's up? Me too. I've got to get to the post office. I feel you. No, it closes at 5. I know I'm going to leg it after this. No, I'm going to Doreen. I want the one at Doreen.
You're posting.
I'm picking something up. I don't have PO box. Alright.
Amazon Prime.
Alright. Experience of love brings out the best and worst. Black Diggers. You could do the veteran with a glass of wine in his hand. Brings out the best and worst. Experiences of love. The mateship, the whatever. And then he's like, but I wouldn't wish it on my worst. Oh, does it bring out the worst in him though?
No, not really.
It's just kind of all the best, isn't it?
Love.
Experience of love.
Oh, when Birdie lost his sister.
Birdie giving permission to Birdie giving permission to Birdie. She doesn't want to, but
Also Laurie. No one.
Is it the best and worst though?
No, it was sister. Yeah, one of them had a sister.
Birdie writes to his
Mother. And his mother writes to him about his sister.
That their love brings out the best and worst.
Family.
Shh, sorry, I'm listening to Ava.
are the worst because they are against Australia as a whole. Australia never did anything for them.
So their love of country, are you talking about?
He was to his sister.
Shh. Okay. So the scene where I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not going to edit this.
Did you see what he said though? Like, how am I supposed to respond?
I don't know if you did hear that. That was so good.
Not only do we hear it, we record it apparently.
Like that letter, the one that she wrote.
How does it bring out the best? Good, yeah. Yeah, over. Good. Experience of love bringing out the best and worst. This one's an easy one.
Oh yeah, the Whitechapel.
Whitechapel, yeah. Yeah, that he, you know, he calls, you know, like he dobs in Chapel because he loves him. And he thinks that this is the one way that he can protect him. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually done in love.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and
Birdie.
no, Chapel.
Chapel.
Chapel dies. Yes.
Chapel, but. You watch the movie?
Is there a movie here?
No, there isn't.
Rhetorical.
It also shows the worst in human nature because it shows, like, the extent in which Whitechapel has been brainwashed by Mr. Whitechapel. Vicarious.
Yes. Oh, even nature knew that. Vicarious learning. Social media theory.
This week's been a hard one.
It's labeling someone negative. God, she asked based on the
Has been, brainwashed by Mr. W. So, this has been like dragging someone through a hedge backwards, but we have got a plan. We have got a plan despite all odds. We have been resilient.
We spend as much time in the theatre exam.
Well, you won't have a comedy of fools harassing you the whole time, so it should be a little easier.
Just have this next album.
Right.
You laugh?
I do laugh. I laugh. So, ladies and gents, it has been a pleasure. Not even a little. Not even a little. Have a lovely afternoon.